Hello everybody, my name is KingStix and welcome to League of Legends Patch Notes 8.7 Rundown. Starting this patch off strong, Irelia is getting her rework this patch. I think she's probably going to be pretty OP or very underpowered. There's no real way to tell right now until the dust settles, so let's just see it play out. Gragas has been awful for the longest time. They're finally giving him some much needed buffs, AP scaling on his Q and AP scaling on his W, along with some damage reduction AP scaling on his W as well. Feel no pain. Gragas mid mains are going to love this. Elise has been really bad lately. She can't compete with people like Lee Sin or KingStix. This buff probably won't be enough to get her back in it, but it'll help nudge her foot in the door a little bit. She's getting some base damage on her Q, and her E cooldown is being brought down a little bit as well. Hecarim's initial clear is garbage, so they are buffing his W to heal him for 30% rather than 20% of the damage taken by enemies. This will help him out a lot because in his first clear he loses a lot of HP and is vulnerable to people like Lee Sin and KingStix. This will allow him to stay alive much better than he has been. Ivern's getting a very slight buff to his Q, W, and R. This isn't really enough to make him pick or ban or meta. This does help Ivern mains out a little bit. Karthus is getting a really big buff. It doesn't seem like it, but his base damage on his Q is being buffed by 10 damage at every level. So at level 1 it's going to be 50 rather than 40. That means if you land your Q on a single target, let's say an enemy champion, instead of doing 80 damage, it'll do 100 damage. That's the way his Q works. The damage is doubled if you land it on a single target. That's a pretty big deal. That's potentially 20 extra damage at level 1. Kayn isn't viable in super high elo or in the pro scene because he doesn't get his passive fast enough, therefore he can't scale and actually put in some work. So they're making it easier for him to get his essence at earlier ranks and harder at later ranks. It's mainly a buff because he really needs that early scaling. He's also getting a quality of life buff on his Q. Now he can cast other abilities while his Q is queued up. So if you have really slow reaction times when you're playing Kayn, this will help you out quite a bit. The solo Q Menace Lux is getting a buff. Cooldown refund on her ultimate is going all the way from 10% at level 1 to 30% at level 1. This is pretty big. It's going to allow her to get kills or assists and roam. Also, now the cooldown refund is granted if one or more enemy champions dies within 1.75 seconds of being hit by Final Spark, so now she can get it off of assist, which is really big. Before, she had to be the one to kill them with it. Now she can pick up a lot more cooldown on it in a team fight, assuming her teammates are following up on the ultimate closely. Malphite can't compete with other tanky top laners right now, such as Sion, so they are buffing his base stats very slightly with his attack damage growth. They're also giving him a decent buff on his E by bumping the AP ratio from 20 to 60%, and they are taking a decent amount of cooldown off on his R at later ranks, down from 100 seconds to 80 seconds at rank 3. This is considerable. Once he has his 45% CDR or 40% CDR, his ultimate is nearly going to be 40 seconds. That's pretty big. That means late game, his ultimate's always going to be up. Definitely look to pick Malphite if the enemy team is an AD heavy comp as a top laner. The Duskblade nerf hit Nocturne pretty hard, so they are giving his Q a slight AD buff. Olaf's mildly abusive right now, so they're toning down his ultimate's initial bonus movement speed. It lasts for 1 second, taking it from 50% at level 1 all the way down to 20%. This is really going to hurt Olaf's first gank at level 6. I don't think this was necessary, but I suppose in certain elos, Olaf was a little bit too strong. Quinn is getting some bug fixes. Rengar's getting a slight attack damage buff. Rumble hasn't been that viable in the top lane for a while. It's really difficult to play him well because if you ult and your teammates don't follow up on it, Rumble's really very useless. So they are giving him a buff for primarily solo Q. The base damage on his Q is going all the way from 135 up to 175. That's a 40 damage increase at level 1. 40 damage at level 1 may not seem like a lot, but if he uses that 3 times on you at level 1, that's 120 extra damage potentially that he just got off on you. Really big deal. Definitely expect to see some more Rumble players in higher elo, and then lower elo people are going to copy them, so expect to see more Rumble in general. They are pulling a little bit off the damage off of it to minions in the earlier ranks since the base damage got buffed, so it balances itself out, but in later ranks it's actually higher at 80%. So in the late game, Rumble's quite a bit stronger. In the early game, he has more base damage. Definitely something to be excited about if you're a Rumble player. Sejuani is picked non-stop in high elo because she's got a good gap closer and heaps of CC. In higher elo especially, a tank isn't good unless they have a lot of peel and shut down CC, and Sejuani has all of it. So they're going to be shaving off a little bit of her health growth stat, and they're also reducing the stun duration of her E, especially in the later ranks, by 0.6 seconds. She still is going to be picked quite a lot, but this will help to bring her back a little bit towards where other tank junglers are sitting at right now. Shaco was way too strong with their last buff that they gave him on his empowered Q after coming out of invisibility or while during it. He had 70% bonus attack damage on his next auto, which is insane. So they're shaving that down to 40% attack damage. Also, Shaco's next basic attack has to be used within 0.25 seconds of exiting invisibility or during, rather than being up to 2.5 seconds after invisibility. I think you're still going to be seeing Shaco's in lower elo. Definitely an amazing smurfing champion. Swain has been pick and ban. Swain has been a pick and ban champion for a while now after they've buffed him. He's very tanky, hard to kill, good healing, good AoE damage, solid CC. There's really nothing he doesn't have. So they are going to be nerfing the cooldown on his Q and the base damage. This isn't that big of a nerf. Definitely still expect to see Swain. Warwick's getting a bug fix on his Q. It fixed a bug where Warwick's Q would deal double damage. I personally never ran into this bug. I sure wish I had though. Riot decided that, hey, Zed isn't OP enough. Let's buff him again. So his Q is getting higher damage to units beyond the first from 50% to 60%. Just another buff that Zed didn't need. Rageblade's been way too strong after they cut the gold from 3,600 down to 3,000. Rageblade champions like Kesa have been annoying as hell. Luckily, they are adding 300 gold onto it. So now instead of costing 3,000, it will be 3,300. This will hurt champions who are rushing it as their first item, putting them back potentially by another back. Locket of the Iron Solari is really OP. Every team builds it, and if they don't, they're retarded. And most teams, especially in higher elo, will have 2 Lockets, typically one on the support and the other one's on the jungler or the top laner. It just depends. And then they'll stack them on top of each other in a team fight. Very difficult to actually kill one of their carries if they do that. Locket is getting a massive nerf. It's getting its base shield nerfed, the shield per target level nerf, bonus health ratio is getting nerfed, especially in the later ranks. The cooldown on it is getting nerfed as well. The multiple shield reduction amount is getting nerfed as well from 50% to 75%. So if you stack it, you're only getting 25% of the total of the second one. Also, the multiple shield reduction duration is being increased from 8 seconds to 20 seconds. So if you're in a team fight, there's really no way to get off your second Locket without losing the majority of it, because it now lasts for 20 seconds rather than 8. You're still going to be seeing Locket picked frequently on a team, but you're really no longer going to be seeing Locket be picked twice on a single team. Ninja Tabby is really OP. More people than not are building it. Typically 6 people in each game build Ninja Tabbies. They're really OP. They're shaving off a lot of the base armor, but they are buffing the attack damage reduct, going up from 10% to 12%. This is going to help tanks a lot, but hurt people like AD carries who love rushing this to nerf assassins. I mean, it didn't need the base attack damage reduction buff at all. I am glad they shaved off some of the base armor though. Thank God aura items now increase with your size. So if you're a Cho'Gath before and you were massive, your Cinderhulk wasn't really going far enough, so now they are changing that. Things will match your hitbox much better. The Relic Shield line has been way too OP. You're seeing people build it even as top laners to get extra gold per 10. They're nerfing that down quite a bit. The Resolve Tree is getting nerfed in the early game and buffed in the later game. Mana Flow Ban, they decided, you know what, Mana Flow Ban isn't OP enough as it is. Let's buff it so that way everyone who takes sorcery will pick this rune. They're changing it to where hitting an enemy champion with a spell grants 25 maximum mana up to 250, and it's only on a 15-second cooldown. So you can pretty much proc the whole thing before you even back as a support. Not only that, but upon earning the 250 maximum mana, Mana Flow restores 1% of your missing mana every 5 seconds. This is really big, especially as a support player. You're definitely going to want to be taking this. It's going to be amazing with all your heals and shield. It's going to help to keep your mana up. It's going to be really hard to run out. Presence of Mind was only really good on Kassadin. Now with this change, it's going to be relatively good on anyone who takes it theoretically. Now enemy champion takes down, restore 20% of your maximum mana and refund 10% of your ultimate's cooldown. I still don't think it's a great rune, but hopefully you can find a use for it. Tenacity has been really shit because it was only at 20% tenacity, so you didn't really want to stack it with Merc Treads. It didn't feel worth it, but now they're bumping the 20% up at max stacks up to 30%. Tenacity is going to be a lot better pick for tanks now, so they can build tabbies and go for the legend Tenacity. Cutdown's been too weak, so it's getting a very slight buff. Zombie wards has been too strong, so it's getting a slight nerf. Approach velocity has been a little bit too weak, so it's getting a little bit of a buff. Now, the minion changes are worth going over. A lot of people poo-poo it like the Rain Man. They're like, oh, this doesn't matter, but they're fucking stupid. So basically, ranged minions and melee minions are worth a decent amount less if you really look at it. The gold growth per wave is going down, so in the mid and late game, they're going to be worth less and less, and the base amount is going down as well. The melee minions is getting a +1 gold, but the growth is going down, and the caster minions are getting -3. Not only that, but siege minions are getting a base gold increase of 15 gold, and the health on them is going up by about 70 HP. That's an extra auto attack in earlier ranks for ADCs. Bot lane, you're going to see some better battles over the cannon minions. You're going to see lane bullies like Draven dominating harder in the early game because they're going to be getting more gold and denying more gold, because if the enemy AD carry steps up, the lane bullies are going to step up as well and put them in their place. In general, red buff is a million times stronger than blue buff. They're changing this a little bit. Now your red buff no longer applies to turrets. People were ganking and then shoving in lanes and attacking turret, and the red buff alone was like having another champion with you. Really strong. They're taking that away. Now red buff does 0 damage to turrets. So you should probably think about that next time you try to all in a turret with red buff on. If you want to learn how to attack move click, it's never been a better time. They're making it even easier. The attack move on cursor setting now checks a larger area for a valid target before defaulting to attack closest unit to your champion. If you are a messy clicker, this will make it easier for you to learn how to attack move click properly. There's a decent amount of bug fixes, mostly with skins. That's why I don't like skins. Typically skins have bugs. Also, skin feels different than the normal one. Just so you know, most of these bug fixes are on skins. Just keep that in mind. There's 2 interesting skins coming out. We have Badlands Rumble. Looks a badass. One of the cooler skins in my opinion. It's not goofy as fuck. It's not a goofy skin like the Galio or Sivir. I'm glad for the addition. They are also adding Lancer Stratus Wukong. I don't really understand the point of this skin, so it's like he's huge, bigger than a city. It feels weird. This really seems like it should be a Malphite skin or maybe another big champion like Galio or Sion. With Wukong, it doesn't make much sense because he's a smaller, skinnier champion. There's also 3 new emotes coming out. If I had to guess, I'd say the Soraka one and the Grace ones are going to be very popular. They're a lot more expressive, and that's going to wrap up this patch notes. Let me guys know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think Riot hit it on the head here, or do you think they really messed up? I'm interested to see what you have to say. If you guys enjoyed the video and want to support the channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. My name is KingStix. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.